What up? What up? What up? It's the man Sean P coming in live. This is Sean P Experience, man. We are back here live on YouTube. I got my brother back in the building. I love having a good returning guest, man. My brother Akil Parker in the building, mathematician, 20 plus year educator. He's taught at all levels of education. He's been making his rounds lately doing this podcast thing, and he is back on the Sean P Experience. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. How you been, man?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm doing awesome. Trying to keep my head above the water, man. But just glad to have you back in the building to discuss some very critical topics, man. I'm ready to get into it, man.
Yeah. I always, seem to have something to say about certain things, especially after I sit back and kind of, just do some analysis. Apply the mathematical thinking.
Right. It's
You know,
all
I try,
math.
I try not to jump out the gate, too quickly, unless it's just another iteration of something I've already done a lot of deep thought on,
Yeah.
previously, which, that happens sometimes too.
Right. But
Yeah.
man, today we're talking about one of my favorite topics, man. I'm definitely a hip hop head. I'm
Mhm.
an 80s baby, so the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. But they were deemed the golden era. I'm definitely a part of that class, man. But today's hip hop, it's very controversial for a lot of women. Then again, it's not different, right? Because even in the 80s and the 90s,
Mhm.
they had their own share of controversy. And some of the things are repeated conversations, to be totally honest, man. So give me your thoughts on today's commercial hip hop and the impact on community. Let's start there. Impact on community.
Well, I think it's today's commercial hip hop, similar to commercial hip hop of previous times. It's a very effective delivery system for certain cultural norms and propaganda. Those that are in control of this society, they would like the society to function a certain way. So it has to be propagandized in commercial rap music. And I'm always very clear and explicit with using the word commercial. You know what I'm saying? Putting the word commercial in front of the term rap music, because there is a difference. A lot of it is just like, when you really think about it, especially when you get to our age, it's funny, right? If you listen to the radio and they talk about, or I don't know if they still say this, but they say, when we come back, you get an hour of commercial free hip hop, or commercial free rap music. But when you really analyze a lot of the rap music, the songs themselves are just that, they're commercials. So, and if you really if you use your critical ear, you're listening to, like, okay, what products are they advertising? Okay, they're advertising tequila, advertising, this type of car, this type of jewelry. They're advertising like traveling to this place, wearing these types of clothes, these types of designer brands. A lot of it is just, and I think that would be a good exercise for young people in terms of developing their own critical analysis, and developing their media literacy abilities. Like, just, listen to, take your favorite songs, or even if it's not your favorite songs, take some songs and just really do an analysis of, like, how many products or services did they name drop. And then, it's not, a lot of times, you're not only getting sold products and services, but you're getting sold ideology. You're getting sold lifestyle choices. You're getting sold, you know, ideas like a value system, certain ethics of how you should behave, how men should treat women, how women should treat men, how, men should treat other men, how women should treat other women. Like, we're being sold these types of ideas, and that's nothing new. But I do think that with the advent of social media and smartphone technology and the internet, the proliferation of the internet, like, now a lot of those ideas that used to be designated for adults and relegated to adults. Like, I remember back in the day, like, when I was in middle school and early part of high school, my dad used to confiscate my CDs sometimes. If he came in my room and he saw they had the parental advisory sticker on them, right? But nowadays, it's like, kid got a smartphone. It's like there's almost no separation. And some parents will say, well, I'm a good parent, so, that's my responsibility. That's your responsibility as a parent. I mean, that, I think, again, mathematical analysis. When we get into the mathematical analysis, that would imply that all people that made poor choices had bad parents. And then we got to consider, well, how do we quantify that? How do we quantify good parenting versus bad parenting? Like, what is it that you have to do, or how many, or what type of efforts and what type of impact do you have to make to be considered a good parent versus a bad parent? Because there's a lot. I know some people that grown men and women that would admit, like, I came from a good home, I came from a good house, and I decided I still wanted to hit the block. Like, I knew better, but
Yeah,
I
I think,
made a personal decision. I still wanted to hit the streets.
yeah, I think as a parent, it's not fair because even the household I grew up in, I was still find you're gonna find your way. I'm gonna still find my way to watch The Wire, and I shouldn't have been watching The Wire and Eyes and Tactical Confessions and Real Sex 47 and all the hip hop I shouldn't have been hearing at that age. I mean, you will
Right,
find your way. It
right,
wasn't
right.
available to me. My parents didn't participate in buying those things.
Yeah,
I found a way to do that on my
yeah,
own. So now I'm a parent. I got grown kids now, but whenever my kids were smaller, you're not watching certain things in my household. I'm not playing certain things around your presence. You know what I'm saying? You can try all you want as a parent. There's still so many ways now that we didn't have available to us back in the day. But with
yeah.
these smartphones or with these tablets, you going with your friends to a sleepover, or you riding the bus, your friend got an iPad, you can't control that as a parent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I think sometimes we get, when we try to make apologies for certain people and certain, music and media, we become anachronistic because we try to go back in time and say, well, we try to, kind of position ourselves and say, well, if I was a child today, then I wouldn't have been doing this or whatever. Like, but you can't, again, mathematically, you
You
can't
can't.
apply that.
You
That
can't.
doesn't fit
No.
because the environment and the circumstances are very different. Like, they're not the same. It's not the same environment. It's not the same circumstances. It's a much greater requirement for, to be successful. And I would even, this is something I say, man, like a lot of adults are very critical. A lot of parents are very critical of other parents. But when you have like community infrastructure, which a lot of us had like 20 years ago and 30 years ago, you can be a more mediocre parent and your children can still have better outcomes.
Man, you said the key thing. You said the key
The
thing.
argument that I don't hear, but that I would make is this: there are a lot of people that are very critical that were mediocre parents themselves, right? And if they were parenting today, then their children would have had very different outcomes. But what saved them was community infrastructure, the village. The village looked very different. Nowadays it's like, the community infrastructure is different. So now you gotta, in a lot of cases, and the economy is different. I was
Yeah,
talking to my students today, like,
yes.
you could say we can be critical of young people out in the streets, crashing out, doing this, that, and the third, participating in antisocial behavior. But we also consider, okay, well, their parents may not be present. But now let's dig into that. Let's look at the reasons why their parents may not be as present as they should be. There may be economic reasons. Maybe their parents are working 2 and 3 jobs. Why their parents working 2 and 3 jobs? Well, that's not their fault they're working 2 or 3 jobs necessarily. Maybe because those people that make decisions, the political decisions, maybe the corporations have like shut down factories in the community that could have been paying a decent livable wage in a close proximity to their community. So they wouldn't have to travel 2 hours to a job to get a decent paycheck. Wouldn't have to, do that 4 or 5 times a week or whatever, and then work another job on top of that. They're not being held accountable for that. So it's like, as a parent, you might have to make the decision like, all right, well, yeah, I know I need to spend more time with my child and be more present. But if I do that, how are we going to pay the bills? How are we going to keep the lights on? And I just think that that's not even part of the conversation. It's like a lot of people have this very dismissive attitude where it's like, y'all just
Well,
need to do better. You know what I mean? And it's
you
like,
know,
okay, even if that's true that people do need to do better, I think it's much deeper than that.
yeah. You said the community infrastructure kind of a conversation. I'm thinking about it's the summertime right now, for an example.
Yeah.
Like where I'm from, man, in the summertime, even if your parents didn't really have resources, we had so many community recreation centers in the school cafeteria really from the school time. The cafeteria ladies at the recreation center, they cooking breakfast and lunch. So at least 2 meals a day. If you can get there, you provided breakfast and lunch. A lot of the teachers in the summertime at the rec center, we playing basketball, we playing other little kid games, we going to the pool. There's so many things to do from 8 in the morning till 5 in the evening still.
Yeah.
even though we're in the summertime. But like in the summertime now, a lot of those things aren't there anymore.
Right.
A lot of those rec centers are closed now. A lot of those pools are closed now. A lot of those things are not even available for our kids now.
And
So
you know what
those
else?
kids sit around doing what all day?
And you know what else too? And this is something that a lot of us are gonna have to deal with. Is speaking to that point. There's like it's like something's not adding up, right? And a lot of us we ran off on the plug, so to speak. And this is what I mean by that. Because a lot of us that are adults now, I'm 46 years old, right? So a lot of people in my age range and my demographic, we benefited from the community, not only the community infrastructure, but more specifically after school programs, Saturday programs, summer programs. And some of us, we started these same programs when we became of age, and we're offering them to the current youth population. But a lot of us are not doing it. So it's like, all right, well, but then a lot of us that aren't doing that, we're very critical of the youth and we're very critical of the families that these youth are coming from. And
Yeah,
that speaks to my other point about
yeah,
how, a lot of us that are very critical, we'd be out in the streets wilding out too. Had we not had, we would have been, I should say, we would have been out in the streets wilding out too, had we not had those types, access to those types of programs. And what
yeah,
we're supposed to do, what's supposed to happen is you're supposed to pay it forward.
yeah. Keep it
So
going.
benefited, like grown men in your community created this type of infrastructure. They created these programs. They ran these programs. It was an institution in the community. And now a lot of times those programs are gone. And there are a lot of contributing factors to why the programs are gone. But one reason is it's like, well, with those that many of the people that benefited from those programs that grew up and then went on to success, and then they learned certain values and ethics and principles, and they were developed intellectually, went off to college and got fancy degrees like I did, right? They didn't recreate those programs for the current generation. They went off and secured the bag. And they out here getting money, living their best life. And this is one of the things that Amos Wilson talked about that kind of really opened my eyes to something, because a lot of us talk about rugged individualism. But when we think about rugged individualism, we're just thinking about myself as an individual, one person. I'm only caring about me. But he also talked about rugged familyism, right? In the sense that, well, a lot of people, they're not really individualists. They looking out for their family. It's like, but I only care about my family. I only care about my biological kids, my wife, my household. That's it, right? Which
So
is what you should do. You should care about your family, but
yes,
at the exclusion of the rest of the community. You can make that choice, but just know when you make that choice, you are to a degree a part of the problem.
yes, that's true. And,
So
and back to those
blame,
community things, right? I was a ball player coming up, right? So like my coaches in my youth had a large impact on how I see malehood.
mhm,
Even though I had my grandfather in my house and my daddy was an active daddy, those coaches still poured a lot into my subconscious of what a man walk like, talk like, handle adversity, whatever. Those guys. But thinking back on it, those guys wasn't getting really paid money to coach us for all those hours a week and go to all the traveling and the tournaments. Like they sacrificed their family for that. Spend time with us. But a lot of us
yeah,
not doing that, or we can't do that.
right,
Because the economy is way different. So whatever salary they made and live off of, that salary is not cutting it right now.
yeah.
I can't do that. You know what I'm saying? Hypothetically,
And I understand. I understand that it's a challenge. It always comes to mind when I hear the criticism, because when I hear the criticism, a lot of times the criticism is coming from people that aren't putting in that work. And I think they at least should
Yeah,
own that. Say like, yeah,
yeah,
because the thing that they're critiquing is a behavior that is in large part the result of the lack of, like I said, that community infrastructure.
yes,
The community infrastructure was supposed to come from not just that one person that's making the critique, but the collective of people that
yeah,
are often making the critiques
yeah,
that aren't putting in the work for the
yeah,
community. They're not
yeah.
not developing this, they're not developing that. They all about themselves.
So back to hip hop, the overall topic hip hop. You think a lot of the individualism mindset come from hip hop? I got to get mine. I'm getting mine. I'm doing mine. I'm doing me. I'm doing this for me. Like you think that individualism mindset comes from hip hop as well?
I definitely do. Because, especially because, I mean, again, like I said, it's an excellent delivery system. And that's why so much money is invested in it, because those that control the media, control the record labels, control, the corporations that make the products that the rappers are advertising, they put money into it because they know how effective it is. I mean, it's propaganda. It's very effective propaganda. That's why we really should study it. I think at this point in my life, I'm still a fan of it, but more than anything, I'm more listen to it for analysis, to kind of understand, okay, what are they trying to sell our kids? What are they trying to teach our kids? What are they trying to tell our kids to do? And really, what I noticed too is that, the government is involved. The CIA is involved. The FBI is involved. And this is why I say this, because if you study enough and listen to enough Amos Wilson, Dr. Clark, Kwame Ture, Bobby Wright, them type of people, listen to their lectures from the 1980s and 1990s, 1970s, and then you listen to the music, it's like, wait a minute, this is the exact antithesis of what those elders, those revolutionaries, those Black scholars were telling us to do back then. The rappers have been given a blueprint to tell us, to tell the community, tell the young people, like, do the exact opposite of what we need to do for true liberation. And I understand different people got different definitions of what liberation looks like, and I guess that's fine. But a lot of it is just very like it's the exact opposite.
Let me pose you a hard question, right? So we just celebrated 50 years of hip hop about a year or two ago. 50 years of hip hop. Mm-hmm. You say, in hindsight, that hip hop was more harmful to our community versus helpful.
What I say is it was more harmful.
Yes,
that is a difficult
50-year history.
That is a difficult question, because that involves that involves me that requires me to quantify. I'll say this. I know it was more harmful to some people than others. And I think that's an important point that needs to be made as well, because I was thinking about peanuts the other day. I was thinking about peanut butter and peanuts the other day, right? How if I eat a peanut butter sandwich, it's not going to harm me because I'm not allergic to peanuts. I don't have a peanut allergy. But if I stand up and say, but if somebody complains and says, peanuts are harmful, I can't stand up and say, well, I ate a peanut butter sandwich the other day. I used to eat peanut butter sandwiches all the time and it didn't harm me. So what you complaining for? Right? It's just a snack. It's just a sandwich. It's cool. I think that's how like some commercial hip hop is. I think about it like mathematically, like a function. Like imagine like a function. Like let me try to simplify it for anybody like watching. Like an equation like y equals 2x plus 3, right? So that 2x plus 3 might represent a certain person. Like I might be 2x plus 3, right? Another person might be 8x plus 5, right? But we can replace x with a certain number, and the outcome is going to be different for each of us because our functions are different. So if my function is 2x plus 3, right? And you replace the x with a 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. So the outcome for me is a 7. But then the other person, their function is 8x plus 5. You replace their x with a 2, their outcome is a 21, right? And this is the type of algebra that and the higher level math that social scientists are doing to make predictions about how certain stimuli are going to affect people. So let's say they come up with an algorithm and they recognize that, you know what, we need a certain amount of prisoners. We need a certain amount of absentee fathers. We need a certain amount of single mothers. We need a certain amount of this, certain amount of that. We need some type of propaganda that's going to lead to creating that. So if you end up with, a numerical result that's greater than 10, then you are very susceptible to that. So if my number is 7, I might not be susceptible to that because 7 ain't greater than 10. But the other guy, His number's 21. 21 is greater than 10. So that's a mathematical way to look at it. So the same thing might affect different people in
Yes.
different ways. But what a
Yes.
lot of people will do is, so I think when a lot of people say that, well, it didn't affect me, it didn't harm me. I grew up listening to this. I grew up listening to that. I think that's a flawed argument. And that's only one reason it's a flawed argument.
It is.
That's the flawed argument, because you can't I guess superimpose your experience onto the whole population. That's what people try to do with statistics. That's bad stats. That's bad statistics. That shows they don't understand statistics. How statistics works.
And looking at stats real quick, right? Let's say it's a 50-year run of hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about the good part of hip hop, the very beginning, right? You know, the hip hop, the hippie, all that. It's like it might be an 8 to 10-year run of the beginning.
Yeah.
But after that, the last 40+ year run, it wasn't party music. It wasn't just that. It was all the other parts of hip hop that a lot of folks demonize, right? So percentage wise, it's lopsided. Even in that good part that we talk about, that was so early in the beginning incubator stage versus what it's matured into. You know what I'm saying?
And I think too, again, it has to go back to that person's upbringing, that person's like foundation, that person's community infrastructure. You know, because if you think about, because some people can say, well, you know, I listen to Jeezy all the time, and it never made me want to sell dope. Okay, that's valid. But are you saying that listening to Jeezy never made nobody want to sell dope? It never made it seem valid. It never made it seem like a good idea, right? To some people. So then the question, because I could say that, like, I never sold dope, and I listen to a lot of that music, right?
But yeah, all day. Going to work. I'm playing Rick Ross going to work.
Because some people can make the argument, and I think it's a valid argument to say, like, because you might have been in college, you might have been a mechanical engineering major, and the Jeezy might have been motivational for you. It might have helped you push through, you know, doing them labs or like studying for them exams 3 o'clock in the morning. You know what I'm saying? It might have gave you that extra push you needed to feel like you could accomplish that, right? But everybody's not a third-year mechanical engineering major grinding trying to get that degree. Some people are in the trenches in real life, and they listening to the music, and they're already in that environment where they see that around them, and it makes it more of a viable opportunity. It makes it seem like more of a viable opportunity. So I think what we got to do is say, well, it might not affect some people that way, but it definitely is affecting some people that way.
Yeah.
So then we got to make the decision, like, as a community, is it okay, right? Is it okay? Because, you know, if it's gonna have harm to some people but not to others, are we just gonna default to the people that it doesn't harm?
No.
Is that just it? And the other part I was gonna say is this. I'm gonna add this too. I think it's a flawed argument because of that, but it's also a flawed argument because when a person says, I listened to this and I listened to that and I turned out fine, I'm always curious as to like what you mean, because we often tend to focus and fixate on the end result. Like I could say, yeah, I got a couple college degrees and, you know, I'm a good father and, I'm able to take care of myself. I'm independent and this and that. I've never been to prison or been to jail or anything like that. I can say all those things, but that doesn't mean that I haven't made some bad choices along the way. Doesn't mean that I didn't make mistakes that could have been avoidable, right? And when we think about, well, why did you make those mistakes? Why did you make some of those decisions? Well, I know for a fact I was influenced by certain things I was listening to. I've been influenced by people sometimes that I shouldn't have been listening to. I've been influenced by movies I saw that I watched over and over again that I probably shouldn't have watched. I was influenced by music that I listened to over and over again that just made it make sense. And in retrospect, as an older man, you look back and you're like, yeah, that wasn't a good look. I shouldn't have done that. You know what I'm saying? So when people say, you know, I turned out fine, I don't think they're telling the whole story or they're being really analytical about the whole situation. I think they have a all's well that ends well type of mentality.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should do that because then it gives us it kind of lends itself to us just kind of letting anything go. Because if you
Right.
say, well, I ended up, because then even that, like every situation is quote unquote fine when you think about it, because it's all relative. Because you're like, well, because somebody would be like, well, did you die? And you'd be like, no, I'm still
Did
here to
you,
talk about it.
but did you die? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So like, well, if you set the bar like that, that's a very low
I
bar.
mean, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
So
that.
that means everything is cool then.
Yeah, yeah. We ain't playing with that. So
Yeah.
let's go to today's main event, right? The main event topic right now going on in social media land about the musical hip hop track "Spin That,"
Yeah.
"Spin That," right? So let's break down some of why people feel it's problematic and why some folks feel like it's not a problem. It's all good. It's just music. What's the big deal? We've had worse songs in community, and we didn't do all this upcry. So break that down for us.
Well, a lot of things come to mind about that. So when people say we've had worse songs, I don't know if we've had worse songs or a large amount of worse songs that were so accessible, and especially so accessible to to young children.
Okay.
And I know somebody could say, "Well, that's your job as a parent. You're supposed to limit, you're supposed to censor what your children are listening to." That sounds good in theory, but I don't know how
Not
effective,
not today's time.
how feasible that is
Yeah,
to
not
really
today.
be able to limit what your children are listening to a certain degree. You know what I mean? Especially if they got a smartphone, right? Got a tablet, they, be in certain places, you know what I mean? Um, I think when I first heard the song, to be honest, I was more concerned about the promotion of fiscal irresponsibility, but it reminded me of something. It reminded me of Two Chains in 2011, his song "Spend It." When he first came, well, after he changed his name from Titty Boy to Two Chains, because I remember my students used to be singing, rapping along to that, and I would be like, "Damn, man, that's not a good look, man," because that's reinforcing a bad, that's reinforcing like, you know, being irresponsible with money. Like I'm riding around, I'm getting it. It's mine, I spend it. It's mine, I
Yeah,
spend it.
right around. I'm
That's,
getting.
that's good
Yeah,
for the economy. That's good for the economy. I mean, you want people spending their money, putting money into the economy. But at the same time, we out here talking about financial literacy, telling kids to save money and invest in doing that. Well, I don't think that's what they was talking about. I think they were talking about, just conspicuous consumption. And that was back in 2011. So now we fast forward to 2026. So the way I'm looking at it is like, okay, this is just a continuation. And there's been a lot of songs in between 2011 and 2026 now too. But that's the first thing I thought about. I thought about that. So I thought about Two Chains, and I was like, okay, they running this back. And it's interesting how that song is called "Spend It." This
yeah, it's great.
song is called "Spend That."
Yeah, that's great. That is.
He's like spend that, spend that.
I never thought about that. That's crazy. That's
So
crazy.
my issue more so was about the fiscal irresponsibility that it promotes. You know, um, but yeah, a lot of ideas, a lot of things came to mind. I
Let
was
me let me
of also go ahead.
let me pose you this question right here. Right, I've been playing with this lately with a few people. Let's just say we can separate. The idea of separation always comes up for generations, right? Separation from the other people. If we can separate the part of our community that is in the underworld, right? They
Mm,
in the drug game, they in the boosting, they in the whatever they into. They are still a part of the community.
mhm,
We
definitely.
can't just ostracize and like no, they're still a part of us. What do we do with that sector of community is the question. Like they still coming with us. If we can't separate and get reparations, if we can get all the best case scenarios, they still a part of us. So the underbelly is always gonna be there.
So I think ideally, if we did have control of our communities, then we would have different economic opportunities for our people, so they wouldn't have the need or feel the need to do certain things to make money.
Well,
I always think about
okay, go ahead.
I always think about Frank White on The King of New York near the end when he was saying he was talking to the cop and he was describing all these other like people that he took out from these rival crews and whatnot. And he was describing, what type of business they was in. And he was like, I didn't want to make money that way. Now granted, he himself was a drug dealer, but I think he was trying to pivot away from that. He was trying to open up a hospital in the Bronx somewhere, right? But one thing he said that resonated with him was I didn't want to make money that way. So I always think about that. Like,
And
how do you decide how you want to make your money? You know, that's. But I
so,
think if we control our community, then
right,
we'll have other options for people.
I'm in the psychology world myself, right? I'm in the psychology game, and we all see like these NBA players getting popped left and right for gambling, right?
Mhm.
So clearly, you're a multi-million-dollar athlete, and you still feel the psychological need to make a lick right quick to get 40, 50 grand. Like, you're gonna sacrifice a possible 17, 20-year career for a 40 grand lick. So that's way beyond the need for money. So I'm
Yes.
saying, even though we had a community where we have other economic things to it, you ain't gotta be a booster or whatever.
Yeah.
The real the hunt of boosting, that's your shit way more than the money. Like
Yeah.
Jay-Z said, the allure, right? Like the allure is beyond the drug itself. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You addicted too, you
Yeah.
know?
That is an issue, man. That is an issue. Something else I thought about too was, and I've been thinking about this for a while. I want for our people to always follow the money. And I would like to reframe the conversation even instead of it being a battle between Young Miami and India Ari, and have it be a battle between between these record companies and the black community. Because when you follow the money, it's like, okay, Young Miami just got signed. She got to deal with Uptown Records. Uptown Records is an imprint of Republic Records. Republic Records is run by what? UMG Recordings, Universal Music Group. So Universal Music Group is Lucien Grange, the white man, the chairman and the CEO, right? That runs Universal Music. So whatever Young Miami says, like a lot of times I look at rap. I remember Kwame Ture said this in the early '90s in a lecture, and he was critical of commercial rap music. But one thing he said, without completely letting them off the hook, he wasn't trying to absolve them of all responsibility as rappers because it is their voice. But one thing he was clear about, he said, you know, the rappers are just straw men. Their job is to promote propaganda for the larger power structure. And a lot of times when I look at like rappers, I'm like, they're like the people that you get to sing the national anthem at the baseball game or the basketball or football game. They're very disposable and replaceable, right? So when we understand that, it's like, since Young Miami could be replaced with anybody, I say we look at the white men and women that's in charge calling the shots and signing the checks. I say we look at them more so. And again, not to absolve Young Miami of responsibility or any commercial rapper of responsibility, because they're getting paid to do a job. And that job is to promote propaganda that may be harmful to children, right? But I think even in philosophy, you have like a major premise and a minor premise. So then you also, and so I think about the idea of having a major enemy and a minor enemy. So if people are critical of Young Miami, I would say, and not that she's not deserving of critique for the ideas and that she's putting out and been putting out really throughout her career, and not just her, but a lot of people, men and women, for years. I would classify her as a minor enemy. I would look at like the Lucien Granges at Universal Music Group as the major enemy. I would look at and then Universal Music Group, a large portion of that company is owned by what is it, Tencent Holdings and Pershing Square Holdings. These corporations. This is corporate. They're pushing propaganda so they can sell products. That's really what all it is at the end of the day. A lot of us, we vibe to the music, and a lot of us have an appreciation for the artistic quality and the aesthetic value and all of that. But I mean, a lot of things, multiple things can be true at the same time. But I think we don't spend enough time looking as a collective. We don't spend enough time looking at the business aspect of it and what
Yeah.
this really is to some people.
Mhm.
And even
Mhm.
Republic Records, we got their co-founders, Monty Littman, Avery Littman, they're brothers. One of them is the CEO and co-founder. The other one is the president, the chief operating officer, and the co-founder. You know what I mean? The chairwoman, Wendy Goldstein. You know, Jim Popo is the chairman and CEO of Republic Records. So I think like these white folks don't get enough critique.
They don't.
They don't get enough
And,
critique, and I don't
and
think
guess
we're
what?
looking at them at
All
all.
the,
Not enough of us are looking at them.
yeah, all the names you just named, I bet most people have never heard those names in their life.
Yeah.
They are
And it's not that
super
difficult to
in the
find them.
background. They
It's
are
not that
super in the
difficult.
background.
But and at the same time, see, and this is where it gets complicated because at the same time, our favorite rappers a lot of time in the industry that we feel are very successful and have made it, they're the ones that's hugged up with these guys, right? Because they're trying to emulate and duplicate what they've done. So it's really all about maintaining the status quo and, you know, maintaining our position as like an underclass of people. And music is a great delivery system for that. Now, I know a lot of people want to defend music tooth and nail, you know what I mean? And say, well, you know, rap, you can't blame the rapper. And there's another issue I have too. Speaking of that, if a rapper makes an album or makes a song that you feel has inspired you to do something that is publicly accepted as positive, like fix your credit, start investing in real estate. Like I remember when 444 came out, people were saying, oh, Jay is telling us to do this, telling us to do that. So it's okay to admit that he influenced you to do something that's seen as positive. But yet when it comes time to say, but did he influence me to do something that's perceived as negative? Did he influence me to sell drugs by glorifying him being out in Cambridge, Maryland, in the Eastern Shore, getting money back in the day? When that's unfortunate, because we could have been talking about Diane Richardson and Snick and H. Rap Brown and them and the work that they was trying to do in the 1960s to get freedom for Black people and voting rights and desegregation and all that, so we could get access to resources in Cambridge, Maryland, like in 1963 and places times like around that time and whatnot. But if you say, well, he influenced me to sell drugs, everybody be up in arms. Like, no, you just weak-minded, he didn't influence you to do that. But wait a minute. If I say he influenced me to do something positive, you're all on board. So maybe, so which is it? So is it like, okay, the commercial rapper can only influence me to do positive things, but if it's something negative, then it's they can't influence that? Like, I'm
So
always confused about that.
you just said about the hip hop artist responsibility. You talked about the actual people that sign the check responsibility. Where does the consumer responsibility lie? Because we have a large pocket of positive artists, but they never get album sales and ticket sales like the other side of hip hop. So as
Yeah.
consumers, what we clicking on, liking on, downloading, buying,
Yeah.
how much is it our responsibility where we are actually showing the statistics to the powers that be like, we want this? How much of that lies on us as consumers?
That's a great point. I say as adults, it's very much our responsibility too. Very much our responsibility because we don't have to consume it. We don't have to consume it. You know, that's why it's a difficult conversation. And I try to like be balanced even in my own critique, because one thing I will say too, and I've said this before, when I do doing my analysis, I recognize that I listen to a lot of harmful music myself, right? And I have for years.
Yeah, for sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Whole life. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the difference is now, at the age I'm at now, I recognize the harm in it, right? But it goes back to my other point about, you know, I know how it's going to affect me, but I can also be critical of it because I'm like, or at least critical of the idea that certain people will have access to it, like certain young people will have access to it that don't have the discernment that I have, right? Because like I was my homeboy is a DJ, and he has this like radio show, and he asked me to call in and like talk about mathematics as it relates to hip hop. So this was like the other day, and he was like, you know what? And since it was the 30th anniversary of It Was Written, it was going to be playing songs from It Was Written. They was going to be talking about it. So it was like, be prepared to like, chop it up about that. So I took some time. Now, and this is an album that I've listened to like hundreds and hundreds of times, since 96 when it first came out. Nas is one of my favorite rappers of all time. And I highlighted this one line, and there's a lot of lines like this throughout hip hop, right? On the song "The Setup," where Nas says they put too much flour in their coke and got the nerve to wonder why they broke. Now, I know what that means, right?
Yeah, sure.
You know, don't water down the quality of your product. Now,
Yeah.
whatever the product is, I can, repurpose it. And like I'm a business owner, I provide math tutoring services, I provide math resources. So to me, I'm listening to that and I'm like, that's like a reminder. It's like a gentle reminder, like, all right, yeah, you don't want to sacrifice the quality of your product,
No.
the quality of your brand just to make a couple extra dollars here. Cause once your credibility is gone, it's gone.
Gone, yeah.
But the point I made was, well, that's me. And that's how I would respond to it based on my experience. But a person that's like young and in that environment and in that community where they really see and really believe that, participating in drug trafficking is really the only opportunity I'm going to have to get out of this predicament that I'm in, this life I'm in, this community I'm in, that might influence them. And even 30 years ago when the album came out, I'm sure it influenced some people like, man, I need to get this 8-ball, man.
Yeah.
I gotta get to this money, man.
And
I got a baby on me, I got this and that. But it didn't affect me that way because to me, it was back then, it was just a line. But that's why I wonder, like, because different things affect different people in different ways.
Think about the whole entire universe of that at that time in the 90s, right? Not just the music by itself as a standalone, the music videos at that time, the movie Boys in the Hood, Mr. Society, Juice, everything that came out around all that stuff together, that really shaped how most of us dress, walk, talk, how we relate to girls, our homies, like it related, impacted everything. So for us to say it had no bearing, it can't be true.
Yeah, and it's an imbalanced. It's an imbalanced position because, like I said, like a lot of the people that says it doesn't, they only will say that when it's being criticized. But when it's being glorified, when it's being celebrated, it's like, they're on board with it. Nobody's going to step up and say, you know what? Like if somebody come out here today and say, you know what, Jeezy, his music motivated me to get through this tough time I was going through, or motivated me to go to work and get a job and get off my ass and stop playing Xbox on the couch all day. It motivated me. Nobody's gonna stand up and say, man, I ain't motivate you to do nothing, man. Ain't nobody's gonna stand up and say that. Nobody's gonna stand up and check you or criticize you. And I don't think they should, because if that's your experience, that's your experience. But one of the things I say is like, if somebody can be positively impacted by commercial rap, they should also be able to be negatively impacted by it. And I think that we should own that and accept that. But I think a lot of us, we're so desperate to protect and covet rappers because so many of us identify with them. And a lot of us have these kind of like, these like surrogate father relationships with a lot of these rappers that we don't want nobody to talk about them. It's like, it's kind of surreal actually, because it's like these a lot of these rappers are people's dads, and so it's like you can't even make an honest critique. Just like you can't in some space, you can't make an honest critique about somebody's biological mother or father, regardless of what they did. They might be wrong, dead to rights, but you can't talk about my mom. You can't talk about that.
I got a conversation. I can't prove it. It's just in my mind, right? I don't know if any other genre of music has had this level of scrutiny. Like, of course, our parents' generation, they had their soul music and, they had jazz and the blues before that. They all got criticized at that time. Whenever jazz first started, like, man, what is that? But like, I don't know if the critique was this severe for this long to where we have to feel a need to defend it. I don't know if our parents had to defend funk music, you know what I'm saying? Like, to this level. Yeah. We go tooth and nail defending this thing. So it's our nostalgia, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know. That would be interesting. Yeah, I'm curious about that too. But I think too, you talked about consumer responsibility, and that's an excellent point. And I think another part of responsibility is on us as I would say another responsibility that we more of us need to assume as adults is on educating ourselves in terms of I would say more radical and more revolutionary examples. And the reason I say that is this. I think, and I've thought this for years, the commercial rapper that is accepted as problematic, right? The reason that they become one of the many reasons that they become so influential to the culture, influential to the youth, is because there's an absence of an alternative. So, like, Young Miami is going to be more popular because there are a lot of young people that never even heard of Asada Shakur.
True.
And it's a lot of young people
True.
that never heard of Asada Shakur because there are a lot of adults that never heard of Asada Shakur. Because if more adults had heard of Asada Shakur and studied her and people like her, then they'd be able to have these conversations, these off-the-cuff, regular conversations about her. And then you'd at least be able to have a contrast, like, okay, because we got, and there are plenty of examples of both men and women. So this is not a one-sided critique of just female rappers. There are male rappers too. It's not enough grown men and grown women that know about Paul Robeson, Kwame Ture. And again, let me say this. This is not even to pedestalize them as if they were perfect beings. They were human. They were still human.
Yes.
But their goals were very different. They were committed to liberation. I mean, there's a lot of people that heard of the name Malcolm X, maybe saw the movie, but never read his autobiography, never listened to his speeches, never read any of his speeches, never read biographical information about him. So you really, as a grown man and woman, you can't have a conversation with a young person about Malcolm X. So therefore, how likely is it for the young person to know about Malcolm X and about the community that he came out of and about his ideas and what he was trying to do? So in the absence of that, it's much more likely that these young brothers and these young sisters, they're going to look at NBA Youngboy because they see NBA Youngboy all the time.
And let me ask you another alternative question, right? Even within hip hop itself. If I tell a young man, like, look, put the young boy down, right? Would you say, because there is a large list of positive rappers talking about upliftment, community, all that. But some would say that their music isn't literally as good as the other guy. I talk about like production, I talk about like the chorus, like repeatable chants and these things. These kids don't want to hear what we consider high level lyricism and double, triple entendre and metaphor and storytelling. They don't care about that. They want something that literally feels good. They want the vibe.
Right.
So is the responsibility on our good artists to make music as good as Spin That?
I think if their goal is to reach the community, then yes. And I would like to see that. I definitely would like to see that. I mean, if that is their goal, but I guess for some of them, that's not their goal. They might want to make music that just feels good to them, And now that you bring that up, I wonder myself if it's an issue of conditioning, because even when I hear some of the so-called conscious music or positive music, upon first hearing, maybe it's the way my ear has been, I guess, socialized over the years, listening to so much, like, I guess, harmful music, we'll call it. Like, a lot of that I don't like. So I don't know. I don't know though. I don't know whether it's because the quality of that music is not as good, or if it's just that I'm so conditioned to hearing messages and hearing beats and cadences that are a certain way.
Yeah.
Right. One time I had this thought where I was like, I was listening to some song. I don't remember what it was. This was years back. But I was like, you know what? What if there was a way we could pass a law where for the producers weren't allowed to give these beats to artists that were going to rap about things that are harmful to us and that are not uplifting? Because these producers are making beats that are crazy. Beats that I want to blast in my car, beats that I want to bob my head to, right? But what if it was like there was a way we could pass a law some kind of way where it's like, nah, you can't give that to Future, so Future can like motivate us to just like, chase women and get drunk and get high and spend and participate in conspicuous consumption and do all this. No, you can't get that to him. You know what I'm saying? You got to get that to the brother over there or the sister over there that's trying to actually get us to like start reading books, eating healthy, being anti-capitalistic, trying to build community that's trying to go against rugged individualism. Nah, you can only get that beat to that brother or that sister
Right.
that's like that.
Right.
It
Yeah.
was just a thought, but I was
Yeah.
like, what if we could do that? What if there's a way we could do that?
Some years ago, I think during the pandemic, it's on YouTube still. I go back to it every couple of years, right? Dr. Wesley Muhammad, I love Wesley Muhammad. He had a whole lecture on the 808 trap beat, the 808, and the science of that particular vibrational frequency. Whenever your subconscious mind is getting these particular hertz, you go into all the science of the brain and vibration and sound. And what happens with that 808 beat, and it's going, and it's getting you hypnotized, it's getting you, and they're putting that influence in there on the 808, on the drugs and the fentanyl and all the other kind of drugs, and you introduce all of that, but then that 808.
So even that right there, it's like, so there's science behind. I think, and I, if I'm not mistaken, that may come under the umbrella of psychobiology, right? Possibly. I remember hearing that term before, psychobiology. But even if we're like aware of that, so when people say, so there's like, scientific evidence that certain music will affect you, right? But then people will say, in an attempt to defend the music, they'll say, no, I don't have no effect. It ain't affect me. But I'm like, how can you say that? Because you'll be the person that'll post something on your Instagram story and hashtag mood music. How is it mood music if it don't affect your mood?
Yeah, bro. We just say that hip hop is a business, is a corporation. They spend billions of dollars on scientists to study, like that movie. What that movie was? Oh, they cloned Tyrone, right?
Yeah.
They cloned Tyrone was perfect. They spend billions of dollars studying us and our behavior and how we act in the club, how we act at the house party, how we act on the block.
Yeah.
And I've literally sat and watched somebody at work, a grown man with his headphones on. He's letting Lil Boosie influence him. I'm seeing his body language change in front of my eyes. I'm seeing how he's acting at work in real time. It's a grown man.
So, and here's another thing that's interesting too. There are a lot of stimuli and a lot of things that influence us as people. It's a lot of things that influence us. But another issue I have with people that say, well, the rap music didn't influence me, is like, okay, so how is it that these 17 things influence you, but this one particular thing, rap music, does not influence you? What is so special about rap music that it doesn't influence you? If so many things influence us.
I bet you money that same guy will say, if he's chilling with his lady or whatever his situation is, it's different. When he's chilling with his person, they probably play some R&B music to influence or to entice the mood. So why wouldn't hip hop be the same thing?
Right.
In a different scenario, a different setting. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, man. I just want our people to just be more honest, I guess. And I think too. I heard somebody say this online. They were talking about, I guess what they were talking about was the cult of personality, because I think for some people, they're not really defending the argument. The claim that they were making was that, and I think it's plausible. They're not really defending the song; they're defending her. Defending her right to make the song. And I think even that, again, I don't even think it's not even really her. I think, and that's why I say follow the money. Let's go to the source, go to the companies. Let's start doing more. Like I think young people should do research on these record labels. So like whenever you have like this is something I wish I had been doing when I was in high school or middle school. Like, I think when Illmatic first came out, or when It Was Written came out, and I was in high school, and I should have been researching, Sony Music Group and Columbia. Who are the folks that are signing his checks? Who are the folks that's doing the distribution? Because all of that. That was one of my favorite artists.
You know why we didn't do that in our generation? A lot of times, it's the artist's fault, right? Because we really think that Jay-Z owns Rock Nation or whatever. You really
Right.
think that Rick Ross owns MGM, whatever it's called. You really
Right.
think that Master P owns this and Nas owns Master P and so and so. You think that the face guy, you think that Puff Daddy owns Ciroc.
That's all they are. They
Yeah,
again,
they're the face guy.
back to Amos Wilson. Now, Amos Wilson said this in regard to students in colleges, and how we have to be careful because when we're getting these, this Western education, we're being trained to be the black face of white power. So we got to be careful. He wasn't anti-education. He's like, no, get your education, but just ask the right questions and don't accept everything that you're being taught. In terms of media and in terms of art, the commercial rappers are trained and developed to be the black face of white power. These white guys, like you said, they behind the scenes. They behind the scenes signing the checks and collecting the checks. And they're giving out a small percentage. They're
Yeah.
giving out a small percentage to the artists.
You know what I would say too? They are experts at being private investors. And so many times in our community, even whenever we all put toward, I'm gonna pay for somebody to own a school, right? You're an educator, and somebody could break you all to get your own school, your own facility. They don't have to be a face that's known with that.
Right.
You ain't got to be at the ribbon cutting. You ain't got to be in all the podcasts, all the videos about it. Just put the brand up and fall back. But in our community, so many times I see my own two eyes. Somebody want to invest in somebody's business. They want to be so on the front of it, so side to side with it. Like, man, fall back, man. And they have mastered doing that. So whenever things fall down, things crumble, their hands are clean. Like, man, I ain't got nothing to do with that.
Yeah. Plausible deniability.
Yes.
Plausible deniability.
Man, the Hennessy thing didn't work. That's Nas' fault. Nas got to deal with Hennessy.
Yeah.
I don't own Hennessy, but behind the scenes, they be to pull certain strings to make the Hennessy thing happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I mean, it's just like I said, they're advertisers. The music is really a commercial. It's a 3-minute long commercial for certain products, definitely for lifestyle choices.
What that thing was, Jay-Z owned the net. Jay-Z owned the Brooklyn Nets, and Jay-Z owned, and then you come to find out
he said it himself.
The smallest percentile of the. Come on, man.
I remember watching the Dave Letterman show when this was how long ago it was when Dave Letterman was still on TV and he was a guest and he admitted it. He was like, "Yeah, I own like less than 1% of less than 1/10 of 1% of the team."
But guess what? The other guys that got the lion's share of it. I don't know who those guys even are. Do you?
Yeah.
I don't know who those guys are.
No.
Exactly.
But it was, but his involvement was so valuable because for them to be able to come through Brooklyn and do what they did in that section of Brooklyn and build the arena right there, they needed the cosign of somebody like him. So that's what he got paid for, to be that person.
Okay.
And I just think with a lot of this stuff, it's like, okay, it is what it is, but let's just be honest. Let's just be honest. And I want for our people to understand what's going on. And I think that's so now we come full circle because that's where the mathematical understanding comes into play, because the mathematical understanding will bring you to the critical thinking, because if you look at this like an equation, it should make sense. And a lot of the things we do don't make sense. So if you start to look at things mathematically, like, okay, now I understand what's going on now. I get it now.
So let's do a small pivot. We're here now, right? Media literacy. I want to talk about media literacy, right? Yeah. So for a long time, a person said a word about being literate or illiterate. They're talking about reading words and writing, things like that.
Yeah.
But today's time, we got to understand headlines, algorithms, statistics, advertising, social media. So have we expanded what it means for a person to be literate or illiterate?
Well, we have, but I still think that media literacy, literacy is a critical component of media literacy. Because like you mentioned, you still need to know how to actually read, but read for comprehension. That's another thing we got to be careful about, because a lot of people, and I noticed this with my own son. He's going to second grade next year, and we're practicing reading. We was practicing reading yesterday. Matter of fact, we was reading this book is sitting right here. Ilyasa Shabazz's book, Malcolm Little, the boy who grew up to be Malcolm X.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Sure.
And so we going through the words, and then, you know, and I'm telling my son, I'm just like, look, man, if you ever read a word, I don't care if you can pronounce it, but if you don't know what that word means, your responsibility is to either go find out, define that word, get a dictionary, a thesaurus, or go online and type it up, find out what it means, or go ask somebody, what does this word mean? You don't just go through, pronounce the word and be satisfied and then go into the next word. You need to know what you're reading. It's not just about letter recognition, syllable recognition, word recognition. No, you need to understand what you're reading. And a lot of people, grown men and women, can recognize words but don't know what they mean. And then you got to think about context. Don't understand context. Don't understand that this word that you think you may know what this means in one context, but in this other context, you may not know what it means. And a lot of that only comes from sustained practice and continual practice. You know what I mean?
So let's go on the other side, the extreme of that conversation, right? I did a whole live video a couple of years ago. I went to the city to go to vote on the local election, right? And you're an educated guy, college and everything. So am myself. I go into the ballot box, the booth, right? And I'm looking at some of these amendments they're proposing and some of these laws and some of these bills, and I'm reading it 4 and 5 and 6 times, thinking to myself, I'm an avid reader, and I'm a writer. I love words, defining words.
Yeah.
If the average everyday citizen has a below high school education,
Right.
how do I know that they're going to that booth and pressing the button correctly? You don't even know what you're reading, what you're voting on. You're just clicking on something.
Right.
Because this is all like legalese. It's a whole different language.
Exactly.
It's like Latin and Greek and all these other kind of things that they're using on purpose, is my point.
Yeah.
It's written like that on purpose.
It gives me problems too. I can't even front. I be having to read it 4 or 5 times too. I'm like, what? What did he just say? Like, I got to break it down like 4 words at a time or something. Like, wait,
But then
what?
look, at the end, it'll say yes or no. It's like, I'm saying yes for what? Like, what am I agreeing to?
So again, so we see that the game is rigged. So often the responsibility will be placed on the citizen to say, well, you know, it's your responsibility to vote and do this and that. But there's a system that surrounds voting, right? Or that voting is based in, that you need to understand. Like one of the things Malcolm said, like near the end of his life. Matter of fact, the week before he got assassinated on the last message, he said, he was giving this lecture in Detroit the day after his house got firebombed out in Queens. He flew out to Detroit. And one of the things he was saying, he wanted to go into the South and help Dr. King and them. And he was like, the one thing I will say is, like, I don't believe in voter registration without voter education. And a lot of times there's a lot of conversation about voter registration, get out and vote. And which I believe is, I'm not against voting. I think voting is a very important tool among many others. And I think that is where I might disagree with some other people, because a lot of people be out here like, all you got to do is vote. Just every 4 years, every 2 years, come out, vote, go sit down, mind your business. Like, it's one tool of many other tools.
Yeah, it's a pie graph. Voting is a small part of that pie.
Yeah. And we have to be educated about, like what Malcolm said, what a vote is supposed to produce, what a vote is supposed to provide us with, what a vote is supposed to represent, right? So in an ideal world, all these organizations that, you know, promote voter registration, all the like I live in the hood and down North Philly, and it's like, okay, so, you know, these white folks want to come knocking on my door to make sure I'm registered. You know what I'm saying? Like every 4 years. Well, I'm like, well, where's the voter education program in between the 4 years? Like, where's that at? Right. But I already know the answer to that question. That's rhetorical, right? Because I know what they're about. Right. It's just, you know, we don't want you asking too many questions. We just want you to vote for our candidate, and that's it. Right. But yeah, you got to have education, and you got to have literacy even to understand like the bond issues like you brought up. You got to have a certain level of education for that. And it just goes to show that this country is not about that. It never was. So it's nothing new. We know it's nothing new. Right. You know what I mean? But I think, that's another testament to why we need to study history. Because when you understand history, then you see the consistency over time, right? Whereas like somebody that does not study history and has not studied history, person that's walking around talking about they should get rid of history classes in school and teach financial literacy instead. Like, come on, bro. Like that person, right? When Trump does something, or when this person gets lynched somewhere, and then they think, oh man, that's crazy. If you had studied history, you would know how normal it actually is.
Very normal.
And here's the thing: if you know that that's normal, then you'll be constantly working to create something different.
Yeah.
Because you don't study the history and you buy into the mythology of America, then you're always surprised and you're always playing catch up. And you're always trying to just fit into the system the way it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And speaking of media, let's talk about this for a little while because it's important. I don't know if your timeline sees it or not. I get sent these videos daily at this point. These videos of social media influencers walking around with a microphone and the index card, having people, grown-ups or high school kids, try to read a paragraph, right?
Yeah.
And even worse than that, I'm seeing something lately. I sent it to you a couple of days ago. A guy had some change on the screen, right?
Yeah.
Some dollars and the people trying to count the money. And it seems like it's funny on social media, we just share it, right? But in my everyday life, I went to a grocery store a couple of weeks ago, and two high school people are checking me out, right? My head down, I'm getting something simple. I pass them a $20 bill, and then I realized that one person trying to help the other person count my change back because she couldn't count the change, evidently. So she's whispering to her, give him some dimes and some nickels and give him. And I realized that, oh, she can't count the change.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure all day people had their credit card or they tapping their phone all day.
Yeah.
So me giving you money threw you off.
Yeah. That's a training issue. Yeah, that's a training issue.
Right?
Yeah.
And then at my job at Amazon that night, I work at Amazon, right? So a part of my job helping the employees get their badges and all that kind of stuff they need for access and all that. I passed the paper to them in the pen, like, give me your username. And I realized they can't write. So I'm like, is this an A or is this a G? Is this an E? Like, what is this? Oh no, that's a Q. I'm like, wow, that's a Q.
Yeah.
Is this a B or is this a? Oh no, that's an L. So I'm realizing in real time, like, oh, y'all can't read and write for real.
You just reminded me.
It's not social media. This is a real thing.
That's a serious issue.
Read and write.
Yeah, that's a serious issue, man. Like, and so you just reminded me of something that I mentioned to my students yesterday about cursive handwriting. And it ties into the consistent commentary that a lot of people make about the uselessness of mathematics. When people say things like, I learned this in high school, I learned this in middle school, I never used it a day in my life. One of the things that people don't take into consideration is the intellectual development that results from going through the process of learning the skill. Because you often can't quantify that. It's often not tangible, right? You may never know, right? So with cursive handwriting, I learned how to write in cursive. I learned how to write all the 26 capital letters, all the 26 lowercase letters, right? I haven't written in cursive in probably 30 years. Even when I write my signature, it's not really like, it's like a sloppy signature, right? But I would never say that was a waste of my time, because I know that I was developed intellectually by going through the process of learning that skill. And that has benefited me, right, throughout time.
Bro.
And also, if I need to read somebody's handwriting in cursive, I have the ability to decipher it and understand it.
We said the importance of history, right? So isn't it scary that a lot of the youth now, they can't read cursive, right? So even if they go into the museum, they can't read MLK actual letters. They can't read Frederick Douglass letters. They can't read W.E.B. Du Bois like primary source. You can't read. So now you got to trust somebody else to disseminate to you. Well, W.E.B. Du Bois said this.
Yeah.
You can't look at it yourself and say, no, he ain't said. He said this, not that. You can't even do that.
You got
You
to know
can't.
the language. It's a written language. So it's like knowing the English, it's like part of knowing the English language. Like you got to know it. But like, and I think because again, but I think also the fact that people say they didn't benefit from learning a certain thing is because we're so capitalistic and capitalism oriented. We associate everything of value with it has to be transactional. Like it's like, okay, well, I use this skill to get a job. I use
But they
this.
say don't make sense, don't make dollars. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Don't
but
make sense.
you never think about like how this helped you to become a better thinker, how this
Yeah.
helps you become a better problem solver. It's like, all right, well, I never used the Pythagorean theorem ever again in life after 10th grade. Yeah, but if you learned how to use the Pythagorean theorem, you were practicing problem solving in real time. You were practicing critical thinking and analytical reasoning in real time, doing them word problems. Oh, the ladder is laying up against the side of a building, and you know the bottom of the ladder is 10 feet away from the side of the building, and you know the length of the ladder is this much. So calculate how high up the top of the ladder is touching the building at. You know what I'm saying? The thought process of what you got to go through to figure that out, knowing that you even got to use the Pythagorean theorem for that, knowing that you can use it. That's practicing problem solving. And we're all human beings. We've all had problems throughout our life. After 10th grade, that person had problems. Now, if you were able to solve that problem that you might have had, it's very likely that because of the practice that you had in your geometry class or your algebra class, that was applied to that situation. It's similar to athletics. Like, okay, you're a basketball player, football player. In the off season, you're gonna be lifting weights. During the season, you're gonna be lifting weights. But you ain't never gonna be in no situation where, all right, I'm a running back, I'm running down the field. All right, I get tackled. Then we at the fifth. I'm gonna be at the 50-yard line bench pressing. Never gonna be at the 50-yard line bench pressing. No, you do that to prepare yourself for the game. So a lot of things that you do to practice and prepare, you're not actually doing in the activity. Life is like that.
I would say this as a writer, right? I would say this as a writer. It happened to me last night. You're priming your subconscious mind. You never know the exact moment it's gonna just come out, like not consciously.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote something last night, and when I was doing the process after the fact, I realized what I did. Like, oh, I didn't consciously do this, but Jay-Z said triple line times. You don't even ask me how, right? So last night I wrote something where it was like a double line tandem, if you will, but it wasn't something I was purposely sitting there like, you know what? Let me connect this and this.
Right.
But I've accumulated enough things to where I was able to relate two things that seem like they're not alike and make it make sense.
Yeah.
But it took the priming to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And they want to skip that. They want to skip that priming part. You got to put it in the machine. You got to feed it. But it said trash in, trash out, right? That's old school.
And then that's the danger with AI and Chat GPT. The overuse of that, you never develop that skill. So you become over reliant on it. Like Chat GPT is a viable tool, but it's like a lot of viable tools. If you overuse it, you're gonna have to use it. You're gonna be able to put yourself in a situation where you're gonna have to use it. So it creates a dependency so that it will always be needed.
How about this, Professor? Speak on the proper use of a Chat GPT. For an example, if you use it as a professor, if you use it to critique your work, not to do your work, use it to critique your work, give you skills, give you drills, I'm giving examples of better use versus write this for me. You know what I'm saying?
I got a great use for it as an educator. One of the things that I would always have an issue with is creating examples for my students to complete, creating sample problems, because that could be very tedious. Because you can't just make up, like with a lot of math topics, you can't just make up random numbers and random variables because you want a certain result and it might not result like that. So I see Chat GPT like creating examples for you. But even with those examples, when I get the examples, I still want to do the problems myself. Before I even assign the problems to the students, but the whole create a lesson plan for me and you do all that. I mean, yeah, okay, it will save time, but it's no such thing as a free lunch. So, I mean, there's always there's always an opportunity cost. There's advantages and disadvantages of everything. And I think we get so caught up. And again, back to the imbalance. And I think just like we talked about earlier, the imbalance of saying the rap music can help me, but it can't harm me. It's impossible for it to harm me. It's only possible for it to help me, right? There can be a we only focus on the benefits of ChatGPT. A lot of us, we don't focus on, well, moderation might be good, or if you use it too much, you might actually forget how to do the thing that you're letting ChatGPT do for you, and then once you forget it, now you're beholden to ChatGPT because now you got to use ChatGPT all the time.
It's a crutch. Yeah, it's a crutch.
So now it's like, oh, well, I wanted to write me an email. Okay, cool. You're going to save some time. Go ahead and let it write you an email. And then what happens after 6 months to a year, you let ChatGPT write an email. Let's say you got to write an email. Oh, damn. How do you write an email again? I don't even know. Damn, how should I write this?
Yeah.
And then there's another thing too, like, so you know how like when you get the suggestions for editing, like in Gemini on Gmail.
Yeah.
Sometimes I look at it and I'll be like, nah, I ain't want to say it like that. You know what I'm saying? Like I know what I meant. But even that, like, so you got to have discernment. You got to be able to say, like, no, I meant to say that.
Yeah.
Like, no. Like, I'll admit sometimes I'm like, you know what? Yeah, that do sound better. I like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, nah. Sometimes I'm like, nah, I don't want to say it like that. I don't like your suggestion.
See, once again, we got to be honest, right? To come up in this conversation over and over again about honesty. Yeah. Some people that are anti-ChatGPT, anti-AI, whatever, they really talk as if it has no good outputs, as if it has no good resource, it has no good results. It's like, that's not true.
Yeah, I mean, it can help.
That's not true. It does put out sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
Like the internet can help, Google can help, but I think it's just in moderation. I think, because you got two sides. It's like some people are, ChatGPT is all bad. I wouldn't go there. Some people are like ChatGPT is all good. I wouldn't go there neither. I'm in the middle. I'm in the gray area.
Most things in life are the gray. Most things are gray, I find. Not many things are black or white.
Yeah.
It's great. Let me ask you a question. Do you believe that misinformation is easier for folks to digest because they lack intelligence? So it's easier for them to believe. This is good, right? About statistics. It's easy to put a stat on a little reel and post it, and people just take it hook, line, and sinker. Because they don't even understand how stats work, sample sizes, how it can be manipulated. They don't understand all the things that make up a stat. To prove it's even valid. They just see a graph and they just share it. See the graph that said black community, blah, blah, blah. Or this graph said this, so it must be true. It's in a graph. Like they can't even defend something that they're seeing. What do you think about that?
I would say everything on social media needs to be scrutinized. But I think you have to have a familiarity and an awareness of the topic of statistics in general to be able to scrutinize it. A lot of people can't scrutinize it because a lot of people are firmly of the belief that learning math is useless.
Right.
And this is what those that are putting out that false information want you to think, because they know that the end result of you having that ideology and that belief system as a teenager in high school and even in middle school before that is going to lead to you being an adult one day that will believe everything you see just because somebody puts a percentage sign behind it. Was just because somebody says it out loud, you're going to believe it. So you're going to be a good consumer, not realizing that, wait, this don't even make no sense. I was talking to my youngest son yesterday about Capri Sun because he was drinking a Capri Sun. And I was like, let me see that. Because it looked a little, how on the front it says 100% juice. And I'm like, it ain't no way Capri Sun is 100% juice. That's sugar water, bro. And I'm like, and I'm thinking this to myself. And then I have a conversation with him. And this probably went over his head because he's 7 years old. So he's not really attuned to all of this just yet. He will be, though. Right. I'm training him to be that way. But it's and I was talking to my students about this too. It's like a sleight of hand where it's like they're not lying, but they're also not telling the truth because they
Yeah,
know the typical person is going to think, oh, 100% juice. Oh, this whole container is 100% juice. And I'm like, bro, I
yeah,
know this is sugar water.
yeah.
But what is actually happening is the amount of juice that is in there is 100% juice, most likely. But the amount of juices in there might be only 5 to 10% of the liquid. The
Yes,
other 90 to 95% is sugar water.
yes, yes.
But again, it's like
They playing with schematics and words. They're playing with, you know what I'm saying?
and they know people don't really understand statistics, and they're
They
gonna
don't.
like they're gonna like just go with it and just think that, you know what I'm saying? It's
You
like,
know, my time being a fitness trainer, right? Teaching my clients how to read a label.
yeah,
When some say it's low sodium or low sugar or sugar free or non-fat, you know, all these good words, organic. These words that they use and put it on the label, real big and colorful, but like, understand what that really actually mean when something says that. It's a whole different conversation.
yeah, man, you got to, man. And like, like media literacy, political literacy.
Consumer,
I always say
consumer,
all roads lead to math. Financial literacy, all roads lead to the mathematics because the mathematical literacy is the foundation.
yes,
Foundation, because math is not just numbers. A lot of people think math is just numbers, but math is really just a way of thinking. It's like making sure that things are balanced, making sure that the left side equals the right side, and if you perceive things like through the lens of an equation, right? That's what that's what mathematics really is on a deeper level, on a broader level, right? So it's more than just arithmetic. When most people think of math, they think of arithmetic.
yeah,
But it's much deeper than that.
right.
So you gotta really understand those things, in order to be able to really be able to protect yourself. Because math is a tool; it can be a defense mechanism for you. You know what I mean?
So, but before we get out of here, one last question, man. So, back to the music, real quick. So, commercial music influence emotions. Statistical influence belief. Physical influence beliefs. So, which has the greater power over society? The commercial music influence and emotions, or statistical beliefs? So, emotion versus belief. Kind of the setup.
I want to say emotion because I think emotion has more of an ability to move people
Yes. Yes.
off of instinct,
Yes. Yes.
especially in the absence of the ability to understand statistics. So that's what at first thought. That's what I would probably say. You know,
Yeah, I
uh,
think that most folks are emotionally led. Like I said, it's very primal, it's very base. It's the lower chakra, the lower level. Like, a baby has emotion, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
you can know nothing to feel emotion and respond emotionally, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. Oh, here's something else I wanted to add too, in like a response to like some of the commentary around, because we talked earlier about a lot of the commentary around the Spin That song.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the questions that I saw a lot was, why are we drawing the line now? Why are people talking about this now? Well, the one thing is, it might just be the algorithm. That's one thing. It might just be the algorithm. Because the other thing you got to think, again, go back, follow the money, go back to the white men and white women. Universal Music Group, Lucien Grange, they know that there's no such thing as bad publicity. So even when people are arguing about the song, that's making the song more popular. That's gonna have them like spend. They're gonna have to spend less payola to get the song played because people are gonna like go out and find the song themselves, right? But even if you think about like there's a such thing as a straw breaking a camel's back. So I think I think in terms of analysis, we got to think about this too. Like even as parents, if you lose your patience and cuss your child out for something that they say, it's most likely that thing that they just said right before you cussed them out was not the full reason as to why you cussed them out. That might have been the 12th thing they did that day that was getting on your nerves. So it really was the first 11 things plus that 12th thing. But a child might respond in a childish way, in a non-analytical way, and say, well, damn, all I did was say this. Nah, that's one thing you did, but you're not considering the cumulative effect of
Yeah.
all the 12 things you did. So
Yes.
then you get into the cumulative effect. Then you talk about, well, the other 500 songs that a bunch of men and women put out that were about similar things. So, and I'm not sure that that's what's the case here, because like I said, I think the algorithm has a lot to do with it. But I
No,
think
that makes sense though, because around the George Floyd murder, same thing with George Floyd. A pocket of people were saying like, why all the protests around the world behind this one thing?
it's
Because
never that one thing.
there were
Yeah,
prior murders around that time that didn't get that kind of coverage or that kind of media. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
It's a cumulative effect. Even in the 1960s, when there were riots, it's like, okay, it's usually most of the, if not all the riots in the 1960s were the impetus was some type of police brutality. But it was never just one instance of police brutality. It's like, okay, we mad, you know what I'm saying? So now let's burn the whole city down. Nah, it's a history of police brutality as a norm that people responded to. So I think that's just something else that like people got to understand. But I mean, that's critical thinking, that's analytical reasoning that would like, that would cause you to consider that. You know what I mean? But yeah, man. But I
Yes,
think
sir.
I think I think so. I think the key is, I think my major point is that
Yeah.
commercial rap music has too much influence. One of the reasons it has a lot of influence beyond the amount of money and resource that is put behind it by people that don't look like us is the fact that we, as a collective of adults, we don't know enough. And if we knew more history, knew more examples, knew more examples of like solid brother. Because like I think about this often. A lot of the commercial rappers get credibility because they've been to jail or because they carry guns and talk about guns. But then I'll be sitting there thinking like, hold up. Almost every activist that I read about been to jail. Dr.
Who?
King went to jail. Malcolm went to jail. Huey went to
John,
jail.
John Lewis.
Everybody went to jail.
Yeah.
Like so we should be able to say, all right, young brother, like if that's what turns you on, if that makes you interested in somebody, the fact that they got a criminal record, cool. I got a list for you. I got a list for you. A bunch of
And they had guns. You know.
and they had guns. Like Thomas Sankara, like I remember the old head told me years ago, he was like, he remember when Thomas Sankara came to Harlem, right before he got assassinated, came to Harlem in like 87. And somebody in the audience asked the question, like, what is your plan to overthrow French colonialism in Burkina Faso? And Thomas Sankara is a military dude, has military garb on. He said, look, he went to his hip, pulled out his 45 caliber pistol, said, look, this is how we're going to overthrow French colonialism. That's how we're going to do it. So we got plenty of stories and of accounts of black men and black women that was really about their life. Like I got a poster in my house of Amilcar Cabral sitting down. You probably seen the pic. It's a famous pic. Sitting down with two brothers flanking them on the side. They both holding AK-47s.
Yeah.
But Cabral had a degree in agricultural engineering and was at war with Portugal, trying to overthrow Portuguese colonialism in Guinea-Bissau. So my point is, what I realize is like, and this is like a self-directed critique too, because I'm like, man, like the white record labels they have the imagination and the attention of our young brothers and our young sisters. They keep them mesmerized by rappers that tell stories about things that these actual revolutionaries was really doing in real life.
Yes.
They're telling stories about black on black violence. These brothers and sisters was really about, we going to war with the whole country of Portugal. We going to war with the whole country of France. We going to war with Germany. We going to war with them. You know what I'm saying? So we got to do a better job of showing them like, nah, bro, like I get it. That's attractive to you. That's appealing to you. But check this brother out. Check this out.
Yes.
And they not going into the studio making up stories.
No.
They really lived that to the point where some of them had to get murdered. They had to get took out because they was that powerful. It's like I'm gonna tell you, like the old head told me, before he passed away, they used to run the UNIA office on Cecil B. Moore Avenue down North Philly, not far from my house, Division 121, I think. He said, and I never forget he said this. We was posted up outside the UNIA one day, like maybe 10 years ago. He was like, with men, you only got two choices when you deal with men. You either gonna give them what they want or you gotta kill them. It's like two choices.
Yeah.
And he was talking about he used Dr. King as an example. He's like, man, he said Dr. King was a man. Dr. King was a man. You know what I'm saying? And he kind of made the joke. The old head made a joke. He said, what you mean, King? What about you? What about you? Because another brother was there. He said, what about you, Baba? He said, man, I'm not about to go down there talking my shit. King was marching. He was nonviolent. He had a nonviolent strategy, but he was marching, confronting them white people.
Yes.
He was confronting, right?
Yeah.
But when he said, he was like, you only got two choices when you deal with a man. Like, you either gonna kill him or you give him what he wants. You gotta kill him. Because you know why? Because if you don't give him what he wants, he's gonna still try. He's gonna continually try to get it. He's never gonna sell out. He's never gonna take a check. You gotta give him what he wants. If you want his people, he gonna go to the end. He gonna be there 10 toes down trying to get freedom for his people. And it's no amount of money you could give him. You can't buy him off. So it's like, all right, well, if we ain't gonna get him freedom, then we're gonna have to kill him.
Yeah.
You know? So that's so I think we got to do a better job as elders and as adults, like exposing and sharing information with the young people and to the adults that are like very critical of the youth, and and even like defending or even those like myself that are critical of the music. We got to realize how we contribute to the problem too. And I think the largest way we contribute to the problem is we're not giving the youth alternatives.
Yes.
All they got is NBA Youngboy. All they got is because they don't know about freedom fighters and solid brothers that's like political prisoners, like still in prison now. Then, but for 40 years, like they could have snitched 40 years ago, but they like, nah, I'm cool. Like, nah, and people still trying to get them out of there.
Yeah.
So it's like, and you know what I'm saying? Those are real life examples. So I think we just got to figure out a better, like the record labels have a great delivery system. We got to figure out a better delivery system to let people know, like,
we do.
These could be your heroes. These could be some people that you look up to.
Yeah.
You wear t-shirts with them on it instead of like, you know what I'm saying? I remember my nephew had a friend that came by the crib by my mom's house one time last summer. He had a free young thug t-shirt on. And my first thought was to like be annoyed. But then I was like, you know what? We've allowed Young Thug to be his hero. This young brother. Because nobody probably ever, no grown man or woman around him ever sat him down and talked to him about Samora Michelle, Thomas Sankara, Maurice Bishop. You know what I mean? Like Steve Biko, no people like that. You know what I mean? Like all these types of Robert F. Williams. So you want to play with guns? Let's talk about Robert F. Williams.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's talk about Deacons for Defense.
Come on, man.
The list goes on and on. So it's like, like if that's what you want, I give you.
We got it.
But it's gonna politicize you in a different way. And I think we just gotta figure out a better way to do that.
Because we're all providers of information. What do you think is on us to provide it in an attractive format? We got to make it palatable. We got to make it look attractive, man. And a lot of times,
I think too,
on the side, I get invited to go to the schools, right? I can't go to the school with a suit and tie on and hard bottom shoes and looking like they tired of that. They done with that. I go to the school, not necessarily looking like a kid, but I go to the school as relatable to them as I can. I go to the school presentable as I can to them to where they give me at least a shot to hear me out. And a lot of us providing information are not doing a good job of making it attractive, man.
Yeah, that's on us, man. We gotta figure that out, man. Like, I think that's also why like I said earlier, these days I'm more like analytical of the rap music, like really watching it and listening to it to figure out, okay, like how the marketing is so effective.
Yes.
How's the marketing so effective? And really, because I mean, it's like this is what you do in war. You go back and forth, right? Because they clearly studied our ancestors that was pushing Black power, pushing like different ideas toward liberation. They clearly I know they sat down in them think tanks and was studying our people. I know they was. We gotta believe it. We know they was. And they said,
we got documents. We know it. We got documents.
So they telling Black men, okay, do this. They telling Black women, do this. Okay, watch this. This how we gonna neutralize that. We're gonna do this. We're gonna tell them do that. Tell them do this, and we're gonna tell them to do the exact opposite and make them feel good about themselves while they doing it. Knowing good and well, and we know good and well, it's self destruction. It's self destruction. Like we gonna foment all this like internecine like bickering and beef between genders, between like different socioeconomic strata. We're gonna do all of that, right? So yeah, we just got to keep studying them and then figuring out ways to like, get a better delivery system and also just have a just start having conversations with youngins like that random young brother on the street corner, random young sister. Just and you really maybe don't even give them a lesson. Just say hello.
Yeah, just talk,
just
man.
Say hello, like
just talk.
Acknowledge their humanity. Acknowledge their humanity. Just say hello.
Because
what's up, bro?
What's that old phrase when they still you show a person that you care first, and then you can pour something into them. You can't go to it with a lesson first. So at my job, for an example, most of the staff is in their 20s. Yeah. Like most of the staff at night. They call me Unc and OG and all that. Yeah. I hate it. I can't stand it, but it's what it is, right? But I'm just talking to them in passing, and then at a certain point, hey, Unc, what's your thoughts about this? Or hey, OG, let me ask you about this. And now I can pour into some real things. But it took me having a little small, you saw the game last night? Yeah, man, so-and-so album came out. Just having a regular conversation. Two guys just talking, running it. And then it becomes something serious about relationships or family or marriage or whatever it come about, But it took time to get there. You can't just start with that.
Yeah, people don't care. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yes, that's figured
that was the one. Yeah.
You gotta show that you're relatable. Okay, you cool, you relatable. All right, you're not a snitch, you're not a rat. You could have told on me. You ain't tell on me.
Right.
You saw me doing this, but you ain't go back and get me in trouble. You ain't get me fired. Right. Okay, you cool people, and now you come running with me. You know what I'm saying? But it took that.
Yeah. But this was a good talk, man.
Always, man. Always.
It helped me to flesh out some of my thoughts around commercial rap.
Yeah,
I've just been like writing down and just thinking in my head. It helped me to get them out of my head.
Man, I love it. I love hip hop to this day. I consume hip hop at a high level to this day, and I love having hip hop conversations. Man, I love hip hop books. I love hip hop journalism, and I love discussing this kind of thing, man.
Yeah, and I think too, like I don't want to. This could actually start a whole another episode, but I don't want to do that. But one thing I think about too is like the repurposing of the commercial rap, because it also is like because just like with any as it is now, the interpretation of the lyrics is a function. See, there's the algebra again. It's a function of the person's background and the listener's ideology.
Yeah,
because a lot of the music that I would say promotes black on black violence, and that the record label is pushing it because they know it's going to promote black on black violence, which has certain benefits for those that are in control. You can repurpose it if you have an understanding of the history. Like here's a good example. When Dreams and Nightmares came out, the Dreams and Nightmares intro, when Meek has the line where he says, I'm riding around my city with my hands strapped to my toes because these niggas want me dead and I got to make it back home. When I started hearing that, first thing that came to mind, because of what I've studied, I think about Mumia Abu-Jamal. I thought about him riding around in Philly as a cab driver.
Yeah.
Right? That's when he got caught up in that situation.
Yeah.
He was driving his cab. He had the gun on him, right? But why they have a gun on him? Because he was a journalist. He was doing work talking about the Move organization.
Yeah.
Telling the truth about some of the experiences they were having, and people didn't like that. The power structure in Philadelphia did not like that. So because I know about that, when I hear that Meek line, I'm sure I didn't interpret it the way a lot of young brothers and grown men in Philly and beyond interpreted it.
Exactly.
So even with that, it's back to my point about our responsibility as those that know better, or not even those that know better. Even if you don't know better, we gotta start doing some reading and some studying. Because
on delivery systems, right? Whenever I was in the college classroom, I love using music and pop culture and TV to teach. So whatever the lesson was, we do the lesson and everything. That's it, man. Y'all saw this certain TV series. Oh yeah, I like that series. This character was displaying this. oh, now I understand bipolar, or now I understand split personality. Now I understand. So
Yeah,
that became the conduit to get you to get the lesson from the book, the music, or the TV, or whatever it was. So we got to be able to use it like that for a positive reason. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah,
Sure.
man.
Yeah, I appreciate you, my brother. Thank you very much for coming to the pod. Man, you got to come back one day, man. We do
Yeah,
this.
I'll be back. This is my second time or third time. I think it's my
The
second time.
second time, second time.
Second time. Okay,
Second,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
All
But
right.
please come back whenever you want, man. Whatever topic you want to talk, hit me up, man. We get a time and a date like we did, and we get it in. We lock it in, man. It's live on YouTube right now, so I'll be posting little clips and whatnot, tagging you on it, and go from there, my brother.
That's what's up. Yeah, we got into a lot tonight too, man.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. We always do. We always do. Thank you very, very much for the audience watching, man. My brand new audio book just dropped today. Positive. The Bounce Back Season audio version is now available. We dropped at 3 in the morning last night, like Kanye West do, like Drake and them do. We drop at 3 in the morning, early drop. So go out there and get it, man. I thank y'all very much. I will see y'all on Thursday for the next Similar Degree Eyes podcast. Peace.
And congrats, bro. Congrats on your book, bro.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.